It started with a glance during the credits, too long to be innocent, too quiet to be ignored. The living room was dim except for the soft flicker of the TV screen. Rain tapped the windows like a whispered warning, but inside, it was warm, the kind of warmth that makes you forget time. I pulled the throw blanket tighter around my shoulders and reached for the wine glass resting on the side table. He was sitting at the other end of the couch, maybe 3 feet away, not far, not close. His name was Ethan, and he wasn't supposed to look at me the way he just did. 22. Smart. Thoughtful. A little lost, like most young men that age. He'd come to stay for a few weeks while figuring out his next steps. I hadn't seen him since the wedding, his father's second marriage, my first. The title stepson never felt natural between us. It felt like a word forced into a story that didn't know where it was going. Tonight was supposed to be simple. Just a movie night. Something easy. He'd picked an old romantic comedy, something soft around the edges. I hadn't expected to enjoy it, but I laughed more than I thought I would. So did he. By the time the credits rolled, the mood had shifted. Still quiet, still easy, but thick with something unspoken. He stretched, his shirt riding up just a little, revealing a sliver of skin. I looked away quickly, annoyed at myself for noticing. "You always drink red?" he asked, nodding toward my glass. "Usually," I replied. "Your dad hated it. Said it gave him headaches." Ethan smiled. "You still drink it anyway." I shrugged. "Some things are worth the headache." There was a pause. Not an awkward one, a loaded one. The kind that sits between two people when the room's too small for the feelings they're pretending not to have. I glanced over at him. His eyes didn't drop this time. They stayed locked on mine, steady and calm, like he wanted to say something but knew he shouldn't. "I never really got it," he said. "Why you two were even together. You always seemed more alive than him." It hit me harder than I expected. Not the words, but the sincerity. The way he said it, like he meant it, like he'd been thinking it for a while. I turned my face back to the screen. The credits were still rolling, music soft, romantic, almost mocking. I could feel him looking at me, waiting. Maybe for a reaction. Maybe just to see if I'd look back. I did. And in that moment, short, breathless, I remembered something I hadn't felt in a long time, wanted. Not admired. Not respected. Wanted. I opened my mouth to say something, but nothing came. Just the thunder rolling in from the distance. The lights flickered once, then steadied. A breeze crept through the window crack and carried the smell of wet leaves. "Do you ever miss him?" Ethan asked, quieter now. I wasn't sure if he meant his father or someone else entirely. Maybe even a younger version of myself. I couldn't answer. Not with him looking at me like that. Instead, I took a sip of wine and looked away, heart pounding louder than the storm outside. And then, just when the silence had stretched too long to be safe, the doorbell rang. The doorbell rang again, sharper this time. I stood, more out of instinct than curiosity, and walked toward the foyer. Ethan didn't move. It was only a delivery, a box I'd forgotten I ordered. I signed for it quickly, barely hearing the driver's polite words. My mind was still in the living room. Still caught in that look he'd given me. That I'd returned. Back inside, I set the box on the counter and leaned on it, facing away from him. I needed the moment. I needed to breathe. "You okay?" he called from the couch. I nodded, even though he couldn't see. "Yeah. Just tired." He didn't push it. That was one of the things about him. Ethan noticed everything but never made you feel cornered. He had this quiet patience, like he'd wait as long as it took for the truth to come to him. I used to think it was just politeness. Now I wasn't so sure. I sat back down, but this time there was less space between us. The blanket fell between us like a line we both knew existed, but neither of us wanted to acknowledge. He shifted, looking at me. You were married a long time, huh? 12 years. I said it flatly, as if that number didn't carry the weight it did. Long enough to forget what it's like to be touched like you matter. I regretted the words as soon as they left my mouth. But I didn't take them back. I didn't need to look to know he heard every syllable. He was quiet for a beat. I always wondered if you were happy. You never looked it. I turned to him slowly. And how would you know what happy looks like? He met my gaze. Because you look different now. My heart stuttered. I hated how much that simple sentence affected me. Ethan wasn't just some young guy. He'd been through things. His mom left when he was 8. His dad, my now ex-husband, wasn't much of a father. More of a ghost who happened to occupy the same house. Ethan had learned early to fend for himself. To protect his heart by burying it deep. And I'd buried mine, too. In responsibilities. In a marriage that never touched my soul. I was 46. Divorced. A woman who knew better. Who should know better? But nothing about this, about him, felt wrong in the way it was supposed to. I reached for the wine again, and as I did, my hand brushed his. It wasn't planned. Wasn't dramatic. Just skin on skin. He didn't pull away. Neither did I. Instead, we both looked down at our hands, still touching, barely moving, and then up at each other. The air between us felt different now. No more pretending. No more sidelong glances or safe silences. Just tension, rich, electric, humming in the space we hadn't crossed yet. But wanted to. He didn't move his hand. Neither did I. The touch was small, nothing, really. But it felt like standing too close to fire. You know it'll burn if you don't back away, and yet, you don't. Ethan looked at me like he was asking for permission without saying a word. I didn't give it. I didn't stop him either. His fingers curled slightly, almost holding mine. And that's when the front door opened. I jolted back as if the couch had turned to ice. Hey. Sorry, forgot my keys, a voice called out. It was Ben. My ex-Ethan's father. Of all nights. He walked in like he still owned the place, dropping his umbrella by the door. So casual. Like he wasn't 5 months late returning that spare key. Like he hadn't shattered our life with a lie I'd stopped trying to forgive. I stood up too fast. You can't just walk in. Ben glanced between us, smirking. Relax. Just grabbing a box from the garage. Ethan had gone rigid, expression flat. Detached, like he always got around his dad. I hated that look on him, like he was folding himself up just to survive the moment. Ben barely acknowledged him. Still crashing here, huh? Just for a few more days, Ethan muttered. Ben nodded, tossed a dismissive wave at us, and disappeared into the garage. I turned to Ethan, heart hammering. That shouldn't have happened, I whispered, more to myself. I know, he said, eyes locked on mine. But he didn't sound convinced. Neither was I. I'm twice your age, I snapped, keeping my voice low. I was married to you were married, he cut in. Past tense. Ethan, it doesn't matter. This can't be anything. He stood too, closing the distance between us in 2 steps. Then why does it feel like something? I stared up at him, breath caught. The air between us was tighter than ever, like something invisible was pulling us together even as logic screamed to run the other way. I opened my mouth, but he was already leaning in, not all the way, just enough for it to be dangerous. Close enough to feel the heat of his breath. I think about you all the time, he said. Quiet. Raw. I closed my eyes. Don't. Why not? Because I do too, I whispered. The silence that followed was deafening. We stood there, inches apart, everything we shouldn't say caught in the space between our mouths. Then, a crash from the garage. A curse. Ben, fumbling. I stepped back fast, like the moment hadn't happened. Like I hadn't almost lost myself. Ethan didn't chase the space I'd created, but he didn't step back either. We were both frozen. Trapped between what we wanted and what we shouldn't even think about. Then Ben re-entered, box in hand, oblivious. Don't wait up, he said, and was gone. The door shut. And Ethan looked at me again. Same eyes. Same heat. Only now, no one was left to interrupt. The door clicked shut behind Ben, and the silence that followed was unbearable. I stood perfectly still, arms folded tight over my chest like a shield. Ethan hadn't moved, still standing in the same spot, watching me with a look that stripped away every excuse I'd been clinging to. We should talk about this, I said. No, he replied. We keep talking. And nothing changes. My stomach twisted. What do you want me to say? I want the truth, he said, stepping forward. Not the polite version. Not the scared one. I stared at him, shaking my head. The truth is it's wrong. You know it. I know it. He laughed, not because it was funny, but because he'd finally hit the edge. Wrong, he said. What was wrong was watching you cry in a marriage where you weren't seen. Wrong was sitting across from you at holidays while he ignored you. Wrong is pretending you don't feel what I feel every time we're in the same room. I looked away, afraid of what would happen if I didn't. But he wasn't done. You pull away every time I get close. You flinch like I'm dangerous. I'm not. You are. My breath caught. You're scared, he said. Not of me. Of what I make you feel. I pressed my back to the wall. You're 22, Ethan. You have your whole life ahead of you. What happens when you wake up and realize I'm just a phase? He stepped closer, voice low and intense. You think I don't know what this is? That I haven't thought about what people would say? I have. I think about it every damn day. And I still want you. The walls I'd spent months rebuilding started to crack. I felt exposed, not just to him, but to myself. To everything I'd been burying in polite silence and fake smiles. I spent years trying to be the right kind of woman, I said quietly. The good wife. The supportive partner. The one who made herself small to keep the peace. I don't want the small version of you, he said. I want the real one. There it was, laid bare. My pulse raced, my whole body tense. We were standing in the aftermath of a confession we couldn't take back. No more pretending. No more excuses. Just him. And me. And this wild, terrifying possibility. I reached for something to hold on to, a chair, the counter, anything to steady myself. Tell me to leave, he said. Say it, and I'll go. I didn't. He stepped closer, so close I could feel the warmth of him again. He raised his hand, slowly, hesitantly, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers grazed my cheek. Soft. Careful. Devastating. My lips parted. Not a word came out. He leaned in. Just enough. Close enough. And then, a knock at the door. The knock hit like a gunshot. Ethan froze. My breath caught. For a second, neither of us moved, suspended in the fragile silence between almost and too far. I stepped back, smoothing my hair, my sweater, anything to buy time. Ethan dropped his hand. We both knew whoever was on the other side of that door was about to change something. I opened it. It was Ben. Again. His face wasn't casual this time. "Can we talk?" he asked, his eyes scanning past me into the room. "Looking for someone." "For Ethan." "I thought you left," I said, keeping my voice level. Ben gave a tight smile. "I did. Then I remembered I left something else behind." He held up a phone. "My phone." "Unlocked." I reached for it, but he didn't let go right away. "I saw your messages," he said flatly. My blood went cold. "What messages?" His jaw tensed. "The ones with Ethan." Ethan stepped into the doorway behind me. "You went through her phone?" Ben's eyes darkened. "You've been texting her? While staying under her roof? While pretending you were here to reconnect with your father?" I turned to Ethan, heart racing. What messages did he see? Ethan looked suddenly younger, raw. "Only a few. From weeks ago. When I was still trying to keep my distance." Ben scoffed. "Didn't look like distance from what I read." I stepped in front of Ethan instinctively. "You have no right, Ben." "No right?" he snapped. "That's my son, was your son," Ethan cut in. "Let's not act like you ever earned the title." The words hit like a slap. Ben blinked, stunned. Then his voice dropped, bitter and low. "So this is what it is now? You two playing house while I'm the fool?" "No," I said. "This isn't a game. And you lost me long before tonight." His expression hardened. "Do what you want. You already have. But don't pretend this won't blow up. Don't pretend people won't talk. You think your friends won't find this disgusting? You think your own daughter won't?" My stomach dropped. My daughter. Lily. She was at college. Out of the house. But she knew Ethan. Grew up with him. Called him her brother, once. I hadn't let myself think that far. And now, I couldn't unhear it. Ethan saw the shift in me. Don't let him twist this. But the weight of it hit all at once, not just the judgment, but the consequences. The ripple effect of something we hadn't even let happen yet. Ben tossed the phone onto the table, turned, and walked out. The door slammed hard behind him. I stared at the phone. The silence was back, but different now. Heavy. Awful. Ethan stepped toward me. "Say something." "I don't know what to say," I whispered. He looked at me, eyes stormy, jaw tight. "You're about to let him win again." And that's when I said it. "I have to tell Lily." His face broke. Just slightly. Enough to show the crack underneath. "I have to tell Lily." The words hung between us like smoke, bitter and thick. Ethan looked at me like I'd just said I was leaving. Maybe in a way, I had. He turned away, rubbing a hand across his jaw, pacing once, then stopping cold. "Tell her what?" he asked quietly. "That you felt something you weren't supposed to? That I crossed a line? Or that we did?" "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "But if I lie to her, if I keep this in the dark, it'll rot us from the inside." He laughed, not cruelly, but like someone trying to keep from breaking. "You always think in consequences." "I think in moments." I stepped forward, careful. "That's because I've had more time to see how fast they pile up." His eyes softened just enough to hurt. "So what are we doing? Was that just heat? A reaction? Or are you walking away from something real because you're scared?" "Of course I'm scared," I snapped. "I'm scared of how easy it is with you. I'm scared of what people will say. I'm scared I'll ruin you." You don't get to decide that, he said. You don't get to choose for both of us. Silence again. My hands trembled. I hated how much I wanted to reach for him. But wanting and doing had already started to blur, and once it tipped, there'd be no coming back. I've never had this, I whispered. Not like this. Not with anyone. He looked up sharply. But, I added, voice cracking, I also have a daughter who trusts me. And if I don't handle this with honesty, I lose her. He stepped closer. Just one pace. Not asking. Not begging. Just, there. I'm not asking you to choose between us, he said. I'm asking you not to lie about what this is. Don't call it a mistake just because it's inconvenient. That hit harder than I expected. Because deep down, I wasn't ashamed of how I felt, only of how I got here. The timeline. The labels. The fear. I nodded slowly. Then we do it right. His eyes flickered. Meaning? Meaning I talk to her. I don't hide. And neither do you. But until I do, we stop. It was the hardest sentence I'd ever said out loud. Ethan took a breath. And if she hates us? Then we figure out what kind of love is worth losing things for. He reached out, this time not to hold me, but just to place a hand lightly on my arm, grounding, not possessive. His touch was warm, steady. I'll wait, he said. I didn't ask you to. I know. And just like that, the moment held. No kiss. No rush. Just everything laid bare between us. Unfinished. But no longer unspoken. It took 3 days before I called Lily. I'd rehearsed the conversation a dozen times. None of the versions were perfect. All of them felt like confessions. And maybe that's what they were. She answered on the second ring, her voice warm but cautious. Hey, Mom. Everything okay? I paused. I need to tell you something. And I need you to really listen. I didn't rush it. I didn't downplay it. I told her the truth, that something unexpected had happened between Ethan and me. That it was emotional, not physical. That it wasn't planned or casual or a joke. There was a long silence. Then she said, "That's a lot." "I know," I whispered. "You have every right to feel what you feel. I'm not asking for approval. Just understanding." She sighed. "He's not really my brother. I mean, we weren't raised like that. Still, it's weird." "I know." And Dad would flip. "I know." More silence. Then, "Are you happy?" I wasn't expecting that question. It landed hard. "I think I could be," I said. "If I let myself." She was quiet again. Then, softly, "Then maybe you should." That was it. No screaming. No slamming phones. Just a daughter trying to process something complicated. Like I was. When I hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time. Everything felt lighter. Not resolved, not yet. But honest. And that was enough for now. Ethan came back the next night. He didn't ask what she said. Just looked at me like he already knew. I didn't run into his arms. He didn't try to pull me into his. We sat on the couch, side by side. The same couch. The same movie still half-watched from that night. He reached over, gently took my hand, and held it in his lap. No fire this time. No rush. Just warmth. Real, steady warmth. "I don't know where this goes," I said. "I don't either," he replied. "But it feels like something worth following." And maybe that was the point. Maybe not every story ends cleanly. Maybe some loves don't ask for permission. They just show up, complicated, inconvenient, and completely real. We didn't post about it. We didn't tell the world. We just lived it. Slowly. Carefully. With eyes open and no illusions. Some people whispered. A few old friends stopped calling. Ben sent one bitter email, then went silent. But Lily called again. She asked how I was. She asked how we were. And I told her the truth. Love doesn't always come wrapped in a way people recognize. But when it arrives, you don't ignore it just because it breaks the rules. Sometimes it's the broken rules that lead to something whole. So what would you do? Would you risk judgment for something that feels right in your heart? Is love still love, if it comes from the wrong direction? And is it ever too late to follow the feeling that won't let go?